Welcome to Voices from the Vineyard, where we share stories of faith, hope, and community from Valley Vineyard Church. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Well, welcome to Voices from the Vineyard, our podcast here at Valley Vineyard Church, where we like to connect with different people from our church community and hear their stories, because stories are valuable, significant, and important. And so that's what the Lord uses to help us connect with others and others to know what He has done in and then through our lives as well. And so today we have with us Dasan Garcia. I was going to say Garcia, but Garcia, who
it
is
flows better.
who's a neat guy who's been a part of the church, and not too many years back now, but he's just has been involved in different ministries. So I thought it'd be great to interview you and just spend some time with you so that others can get to know you as well. So welcome, Dasan.
Thank you for having me. It's always funny and crazy to think about that it's only been 3 years of my attending the Vineyard.
Okay.
It hasn't been too long at all in the grand scheme of things, especially for a lot of the other people that I am now, consider friends and stuff like that. They'll share with me this years of Vineyard knowledge and just memories and all of these wonderful things. And I'm like, oh man. And they're like, do you remember that? And I'm like, no, I haven't been here by that. I was like, I'm glad you think I was there, but I haven't been here long enough for that.
Well, we like to start with like your foundation, your story, kind of where you came from. Mm-hmm. And so, would you tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about how your upbringing was, and what did faith look like as you grew up, and when did it become real to you?
To jump to that last question, the realness of my faith really kind of at least started to take shape around like the transition between elementary school to middle school, at least for me.
Okay.
Because growing up, I was raised Christian just pretty much my entire childhood. I just got to see it from different lenses, just depending on the denomination of the church that I was attending. My first 6 years of life, I was in a part of a Pentecostal church with my family.
Okay.
And very, very small. Everyone knew everyone, and if you say something to one person, the whole church will know by like the next
because
the next
they're praying
hours.
For each other, right?
Yes, exactly. Because we're praying for each other. It was nice. I enjoyed that kind of familial sense to it. But then we moved. This was back when I used to actually live in North Hollywood. But then I moved a lot more centered here in the Valley when my younger sister was coming into the picture. So this is around like 2004, 2005. Me and my family became a part of a Foursquare church that was over in Mission Hills, where I currently reside now. And again, still had that very familial closeness to it, but it still seemed like it expanded just enough people-wise for it to not be like, all right, the whole church is going to know your business within the next few hours, because again, we're praying for you. But it still had that everyone knew everyone vibe for the most part, and it was just very, very much filled with love. And during that time, that was probably where my faith started becoming real and shaping into a sort of realness, because during my time there, that's when I got to be a part of the Royal Rangers program that they had there, which, for the people that usually don't know it, my simple explanation for it is always going to be Boy Scouts, but add God in the center.
Okay.
And it's honestly such a beautiful thing, because I got to, even as a young boy, be able to learn about God, learn about who He was, what He did, and what He was currently doing. in all of our lives, but my life specifically during that time. And but while also learning, just fundamental survival skills on the off chance that I needed it. Learning how to read a map and a compass, being able to read the stars, learning how to start a fire with flint and steel, and all the other cool stuff. Like,
So if there's ever a catastrophe, we go to your place.
yes, absolutely. I will never shy away from telling you I am at least blade stocked in terms of
You have a lot
some
of knives,
sort of
different knives. I know that.
Yes, correct.
When we go to the men's camp, you bring
yes.
some of those for my
Yeah,
son
yeah.
and other kids to enjoy.
Yes, exactly. Axe for firewood and stuff like that. You know it always. But yeah, so that's definitely where that really started to take shape for me, because not only was I learning these skills that I would carry on with me, but I also got to learn and have a foundation in understanding how God was moving in my life and who He was.
So you're an Angelino. You grew up in the Valley.
Yep.
Grew up with faith being part of your family mix as well. So in that, can you share a moment or a season where you really encountered Jesus in a personal way?
I definitely encountered Jesus, and this was actually more of a more recent experience. It actually was around the time where I got introduced to the Vineyard, because when I got before I had gotten introduced to the Vineyard, I had spent like 4 or 5 years being lost. I had spent 4 or 5 years having separated myself from God. And I want to say maybe like the first 2.5, 3 years, I still believed in God. I still believed in Him, and I still knew He was there. But I kind of allowed myself to get lost, especially in I was in a relationship at the time, and it was a test to myself, because my partner at the time was full-blown atheist, and it was really hard to try to get her to understand where I was coming from, why I felt the need that I needed to go to church, and how like that was good for me, not just because it made me feel good, but it was actually genuinely good for my soul. But I stopped trying to argue about it and fight her with it over and over. And as time passed, I just accepted my not going. And little by little, I saw me sacrifice not just my relationship with God, but I also started sacrificing large pieces of who I was, until towards the end of that time frame, if someone were to ask me, how are you feeling? My best answer would be that I am conditionally happy. Because if they're happy, then I'm happy. But if there's something going wrong with them, then something's wrong with me, because I have to divert all of my energy into making sure that I can make them feel better. Which definitely, coming out of that, obviously learning that that's a kind of people pleaser mentality. But yeah, it was really, really rough. I was really, really separated, and I felt really, really lost. But God never gave up. And that's something that He showed to me when He drew me here. Because, that relationship ended, and it was bittersweet / filled with heartbreak. I was wronged, and I found myself, really just sitting there wondering, like, how can I have given so much of myself, and just for me to end up feeling used and tossed to the side, and now I can't even recognize who I am anymore. And I just struggled to like really find out like and remember who I was because I had given up so much of myself. And as I slowly at least healed from the heartbreak, I still found myself, there was still aching. And I'm like, why is there still aching? I don't understand why there seems to be a decent sized hole in my heart that just doesn't seem to be healing, that doesn't seem to be getting smaller. And it was something that I painstakingly thought on and reflected and meditated on. And then finally, after that extra year and a half, God brings someone into my life in a way that I could never have imagined. I'm working at CarMax. That's where I am now. I've been there for 4 years, but during my first position that I started at, long story short, was me inspecting cars, seeing what condition they're in, and helping the company determine how much they're worth. So with that job, I was always outside, rain or shine. I'm always outside working to inspect these cars to make sure that I see what it looks like, and that way I can help determine what the price is on it. And I'm just doing my job. I think it's just another day. And I have the owner of the car that I'm working on. He comes up to me, and I get a mixed amount of, especially because at that time had been doing it for about 3.5 years. I have gotten a various amount of mixed conversations. Sometimes it'll just be the typical small talk of how's your day, how's my car looking, just small things like that.
Here's the 20, give me more money.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a clean car, right? If I slip you those 20, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Yeah, it's definitely have had those moments. And it's so funny. I have people who have really, really nice cars that are giving me their keys, and they're like, go do donuts and have fun. And then I have people who have cars that are on the last leg of their life. It's got like 300,000+ miles, and it definitely doesn't look like it used to. But they're like, that's my baby. I can't trust you driving. Like, it was crazy. But I'm there, and I'm expecting a bunch of conversations. But when this owner for this car comes to me, he does ask me about my day. We get to talk a little bit. But after we got through the generic small talk, the question that he asked me that I wasn't expecting was, do you have a faith or a religion that you believe in? And that is definitely my first time getting asked that in my line of work, just out of the blue. There's no one that's usually ever really had the courage to ask that kind of a question. But, I wasn't appalled by it. It didn't like, oh my gosh, how dare you ask that kind of a question? Like, it definitely just caught me by surprise, but I was able to still, like, after a minute, answer honestly. It's like, yeah, like, I'm Christian. I was raised Christian, and that's the faith that I have. That's the faith that I believe in. And the owner of the car was like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, I'm Christian too. He's like, well, then my follow-up question is, he's like, do you have a home church? He's like, do you have somewhere where you go? Mm-hmm. And, again, I just immediately responded with, in that moment, I was like, no. I was like, I don't. Mm-hmm. I've actually been without a home church for 4 or 5 years now. I've thought about looking, and I've tried a couple here and there, but it's been hard for me to find somewhere where I can call home. Mm. And after hearing that, he didn't hesitate. He just politely was like, well, I want to extend an invitation. He's like, I would love to invite you to my church this upcoming Sunday. And, in that moment, I was like, sure, why not? I was like, maybe I was like, maybe I can finally find a new home. And I thanked him for the invitation. And I had finished. We're doing all this talking, but I'm still working. So I finish his inspection, and I shake his hand, and I thank for the invitation, and I tell him that the rest, my team will talk to him later in terms of like how much it's worth and all that stuff, in a little bit, and we separated ways, but we introduced our names to each other. His name was Sean, and after getting his name, all he did tell me was that his church was on Reseda. I did not get a name for the church.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that realization did not hit me until Saturday night, before the day that he wanted me to show up to his church. And I'm sitting there like, this is back when I lived in Reseda for a little bit. But I'm sitting there the Saturday night before his invitation, and I'm like, shoot, I didn't get a name for his church. I was like, okay, he said Reseda. I was like, we'll work with that. Little did I know that there was going to be like 7 bajillion churches on Reseda alone. Granted, I was able to do some filtering because, is much love to him, but he was white, so it wasn't going to be a Spanish-speaking church. It wasn't, he talked about Christianity, so it wasn't going to be a synagogue, temple, anything like that. So I was like, okay, I'm filtering. So then I was left with 2 choices after all this filtering. Late into Saturday night, I'm like, okay, he is either at the Valley Vineyard in Reseda, or he's I think at the time its name was Our Hope of the Valley. It's gone through a couple name changes since then, that I know of, but it was off of Reseda and Roscoe, right behind a Korean barbecue place that I love. So I was like, okay. I was like, here's the game plan. Tomorrow, because the Valley Vineyard's right down the street from me, I'm going to go there. And if he's there, cool. I found it. If he's not there, we'll see if I like the vibe that the church gives off, and I'll go from there. If not, then the following week, I'll try the other one. Well, that following Sunday, I show up here to the Vineyard for the first time, and it was very welcoming. There was a lot of love. I distinctly remember meeting Sylvia and I think it was Sylvia and Eileen, and then Joyce right at the end, right before service started. Those 3, they were the first ones to welcome me, and then even then, like in that moment, like I could tell, I was like, oh, okay, so I was like, this seems like a nice, quaint, full of love kind of a church. I was like, this reminds me of my past. This is something that I'm familiar with. I was like, I like it. Went to sat down for the sermon. Worship was great. I don't remember the songs, but worship has always been very simple, especially for me. Not just as a musician, but I feel like even if I wasn't a musician, as long as the music has a good rhythm / beat to it, I'm sold. It's very easy to win my affection in terms of music. But it was really good. I really enjoyed the worship, and I know that Pastor Mike spoke on that Sunday, and just after the sermon, I remember sitting there and thinking, before I got up to talk to anyone, or before anyone came to talk to me, I remember sitting there and I was like, that guy Sean, he's nowhere to be seen. I was like, but I really, really like this place. I was like, I really think that I can call this home. And sure enough, I asked around about this Sean, and besides this drummer that would help out every once in a blue moon, whose name was Sean, no one knew the Sean that I was describing. So clearly he wasn't a member here, but you know,
That's cool.
that was it. That was what brought me here, and that's what allowed me to be able to call the Vineyard home.
Awesome.
And that's definitely something that now that I can reflect on that's simply God. That was simply God bringing me home because he knew that that's what I was missing.
That's great. That's a great story, Dasan. It's interesting how we're trying to encourage people to invite others to come to Valley Vineyard. We have all these little cards to give out and stuff, and it's great. You know, I think your story helps us know that there is something about just risking and inviting people, even somebody you don't know, because you don't know where their life is at. You don't know how God's been speaking into their lives, and it's just a simple invitation. Hey, come to my church. That sparks something that's already been there, that God's been kind of inviting somebody into, and just a simple invitation from somebody's got you thinking about, oh, I need to get back to this. And it's interesting that even people that are not part of the church invited you to Valley Vineyard. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Or maybe Deshaun was an angel or something.
Yeah, right. It's something that's been brought up. They're like, maybe, and I'm like,
but it's cool that that's the way you came, and you've you got here around 3 years ago, and you've plugged right in. And one of the things that you've been doing is you've helped launch a connect group that's for young adults, and I would say older young adults, because we just started something for 18 through 25 year olds. But I also believe that we need to focus on the 26 through the 36 or 40, whatever range, because those young adults are more, I would say, stable, or starting their first career jobs, or already kind of in a more stable job. They're not going to be moving as much, or they're not. And so that's something I'm praying about. Of yes, we have something for the 18 to the 25 year olds, but we want to have something for the older young adults as well. That can be a place of connection and growth as well for them. But you've started something like that, and so what has your experience been like, and what have you seen God do in this space with this connect group?
Yeah, it's definitely not something, for starters, that I was expecting. I remember very distinctly about going to the meeting for those interested in connect groups, and I remember being a part of that. But then I remember right after you and Mike had both said that, okay, we're now going to have a meeting for those that want to potentially lead a group. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I'll see what it sounds like whether or not I feel like I'll be prepared for that, or if I'm up to the task for that. And then approaching that meeting with that mentality didn't last long, because one of the first things that Mike brought up that also tied to the sermon was the fact that God has the ability to use people in ways that they themselves might not feel prepared for. He'll still give you the tools and whatever you need necessary to do it, even if you don't feel like you're capable of doing it. And I remember hearing that, and I was like, well, crap.
I definitely don't feel capable.
I was like, yep. I was like, I don't feel capable. I was like, but I was like, he can do it. So I'm like, I guess. Okay. I was like, so let's see. I was like, let's see what happens. Let's see what ideas, or like what may need to grow that I could potentially help out in. And, I remember getting the opportunity to talk to Jeffrey and Lauren Dolly for a little bit. And all three of us kind of had this, we all resonated with each other in terms of, we would love to be able to have a group that did focus on anywhere between 18 to, like you said, like 35, 40. I've seen it all. We were like, yeah, we would love to have that group. That way it's like, not only are we able to connect with each other, and therefore learn to love each other, learn to grow, not just as a smaller family within a big family, but also watch us all grow in our walks with God. And with all three of us resonating on that idea, we were like, you know what, that sounds like our plan. I think that's what we should do. So Jeffrey and Lauren Dolly have been hosting our group in their Sherman Oaks home, and I've been leading that since then. And that was all within like my first 7-8 months of being here. Got plugged in and put myself to work really quickly. It's something that I always find myself doing, but it's not just something that I want to do. It's something that I like doing. But this was a separate challenge that I definitely was not expecting and did not think that I would be capable of doing. But the Lord has taken me throughout the many seasons. It's almost going to be a full 3 years since my group has been formed. He's taken these many seasons to show me that I was capable, and never mind me being capable, he allowed me to provide a space with this group that allowed us to be safe and vulnerable with each other while also sharing the hardships of our walks of faith. Because just as there's highs, there's also very much lows, as we've discussed before. And I definitely think that not only has that been really evident and shown a lot of healing in members of my group, but it's also been able to do that for myself. I've had prior church and connect group hurt in the past, and it's something that I had been holding on to for years back in my early college days. And doing the Practicing the Way series with the groups, I think a year ago now, doing that with our groups, it got me to a point where I allowed myself to be vulnerable to my group about the pain and hardship that I had been in with a prior church and a prior connect group. And I got to finally see what should have happened. Instead of being cast out and left behind by people that I thought were supposed to be family, I got shown so much love and grace and support, and it meant so much to me to be able to receive that and to see that. God knew that I needed that, and it was just so healing for me. I can't stress enough how much love that I have for that group, for every single one of the people that are in there, and for even the new members that I catch every once in a while between seasons. I have so much love for them. They've done so much for me, and I can be just as infinitely thankful, and I could hope that I'm doing even a sliver as much of the same for them as they do for me.
That's great, Dasan. It's interesting how a lot of our hurt does come from people and community, but also much healing comes through people and community. And a lot of times when we're hurt, we want to leave. We want to say, forget this. I'm better off alone. And that's not the answer, because we do need others around us to heal and to receive our vulnerability with grace and love and truth, so that then we're able to process and allow the Spirit of God to heal us and not. So that's great how God's used this church and that connect group to heal certain areas. I know the Vineyard for me has been that as well. I mean, we're not a perfect church or perfect movement. Wherever there's humans, there's there's imperfections, and but it also, the Vineyard movement has been a healing place for me from prior experiences as well. So that's great. So now, you've been with that group with young adults, and yesterday a whole bunch of you went to go axe throwing. I'm glad nobody got hurt, but it was just cool to see some of the pictures from that. So it's just really cool to see that growing and people doing life together organically. So that's pretty cool. So you've been doing that, but now recently you also started volunteering with our youth group, which we've needed we needed much help and volunteers there. What drew you into that, and what has that been like so far?
So what it's been like is it's been a lot of both inspiration and also a lot of fun, because if you ever get the chance to be able to witness just the youth, especially in their lessons, or even just sometimes in their interactions with each other, there's, besides your typical tomfoolery and love for one another, but I think what inspires me sometimes is when I'm there being able to either help out with the lesson, or if I just catch myself being included in a conversation. There's a genuine curiosity and a genuine yearning for not just questions about who they should be or how do they process this part of life, what should they be planning to do next, but they also, and what's really inspiring for me is seeing so many of them ask, where do I see God? How do I see him? How do I talk to him? How do I process that I am a child of God? And how can I continue to strive to be the kind of person that God wants me to be? Who does he want me to be? Because I remember that question being a burning thought in my mind when I was their age, sitting there in church. I'm hearing all these lessons, and I'm sitting there like trying to even fathom, what does God have in store for me? And how do I live up to these sometimes stupefying expectations of, it seems like just when I was, sometimes I guess it still happens sometimes even now in current day. But I mean, honestly, back then it happened a lot more. It was like, how do I live up to such high expectations of who he was and who I'm called to be, or who I'm supposed to be? But it's so nice that not only are they genuinely asking and kind of seeking answers to these questions, but they also have a space to be able to receive those answers. And it's not like telling them that the answer for this is A, B, or C. This is simply what some of us have done. This is what you could do. As long as God's in the center of that, the paths are open to you. Because God's direction for one person isn't the same for another. We all know that very well, that just like we talked about even in the sermon, there are some who are gifted in certain aspects that some of us aren't. And that's okay, because not all of our walks will ever be the same. But I think because they have that space to know that and to bask and grow in that, it just gives them that room, that safety to feel loved, supported, and to then be, again, given those options of wherever God is taking you, will be there to help you go.
Those are great questions, that they're asking. And, a lot of times I know in my life when I want to grow, and we kind of get into this mentality of, okay, what do I need to do? But it's usually kind of in our own strength. Like we feel like, okay, if I do this and that and abstain from this and that, then God will use me. Then God will accept me or love me, or
Yeah.
and we could get stuck there trying and trying and trying, and because like you said, like the bar is so high, like we cannot obtain that in our own strength. And so what it really is learning to kind of like that call you were saying, if like I don't feel capable to be a leader, and that's like where the Lord says, okay, now you're gonna do this. It's the same thing as I'm not capable of living this life the way Jesus calls me to live it, and we're not. And so it's like, how can I surrender? How can I follow His lead? How can I listen to Him? How can I bring my temptations or my disordered desires to Him? But it's a posture of not I can, but I can't, and I need you, and recognizing that He is leading, He is there, He is present, and He's not afraid of our present circumstances or even our present condition. That as we surrender and notice, I just can't, and these are the areas where there's something there that happens. But when you're young, you want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So and that would be, that's kind of that, not immature in a bad sense, but just immature in the like that young sense of faith. Like I can do this, and as you grow up, it's like I can't, and I just need to learn to be as close to Jesus as possible, and discern what the Holy Spirit is doing. And so that's great. So you're older. You went into the youth group. Why do you think it's important to invest in the next generations? And because I think that's important. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
But why do you think it's important?
I mean, to me, I've always found it important because I know how easy it is from those prime years as a youth to even those early years in college, those early years as a young adult. It's so easy for you to get lost in all of the directions that the world can pull you into. Not just with trying to find out who you are in a form of self-identity, but also just with what all of these capabilities are in terms of, do I want to live up to these standards? Do I want to try to make a difference in this regard for this cause on the world? Do I want to? There's so many things always vying for our attention, both good and bad.
Or a typical one would be, I'm lonely. This person doesn't follow Jesus, but I'm lonely, and I want to be with somebody, feel connected. And like kind of your story, right? Like then it affects you, and I think many people have gone through that same story.
So, and with that in mind, I know that something that I've shared before is that there was something, especially during those formative years, if there's someone there that I can consider even just a friend, but a mentor, or just someone in the church who is just more seasoned and or more knowledged, has been walking their own faith for a while longer, then maybe there's someone who can guide me. Maybe there's someone who can point me, discern God's will, and point me in a direction, because during those years where everyth's vying for my attention, I am lost, and I can use that guidance.
Yeah.
That's what drove the importance for me, and I think that's something that can be a driving point for everyone else, is that it is very easy to get lost. So it is imperative to even remotely be a sort of beacon or a guiding light, a lighthouse on the shore. Getting lost in the fog of the world, in the fog of wondering who I'm supposed to be. Someone as simple as a trustworthy older adult or a seasoned attendee in their walk of faith, just being like, hey, I've been where you are. And if you'll allow me, I can tell you what has worked for me, and I can pray for you to see what God has in store for you.
Yeah.
To help guide you on your walk with him.
That's great. Yeah, and I think that's a way that God wants to use many of us with the next generation. And sometimes people can get frustrated because they want to do that, but without building relationship first.
Yeah.
And it's like you just can't go into the next generation and say, this is what I've learned and this is what, without first being there as a friend, as somebody who's part of the group or part of the family, mostly listening probably for a long time to earn trust, to be able to be there for those situations where there's already a relationship that has developed.
Yeah, exactly. It is, I mean, because I've been able to, even in the short time that I've been there, I've been able to at least somewhat connect/relate to some of the youth there with, things going on in their lives. But then there are those that do talk to me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wish I could help you, but there's what you're going through in life, and I'm still going to pray about, but there's something that's going on in your life I have no knowledge about. It's not something that I've ever had to experience. And, sometimes some of these experiences are really rough, really dark. And it's not something that I unfortunately have any experience on. And I wish that they didn't have to experience it either. But, I'll always pray that God will get them through it. I know that he will. But what lessons and what that'll etch into them in their sense of self as they try to grow as both an individual and grow in their walk with God. At that point, that's something that I simply pray on and tell them that, hey, I'm here, and I'll try to help and be a listening ear as much as you want. But I also do apologize that, it's just not something that I am capable of having an answer for, because it's something that I don't have experience with.
That takes humility, because, our ego wants to be experts on everything and have the answer for other people, but just simply saying, I don't know, or that's a good question, or I'll get back to you, I don't know, it's always the best approach. I want to talk a little bit also about worship. You also serve on the worship team as a drummer, and what does worship mean for you personally, more than playing music?
For me, just as we actually spoke about in this past sermon, and we talked about spiritual gifts, drumming for me has definitely been a spiritual gift that I'm aware of, simply because I know of how electrified I feel when I do it. I've had several people here in the Vineyard, but also back in my past churches, everyone who's ever seen me play and sees my goofy grin that I have going on when I play, they know I am just enthralled in playing worship for God. I can play worship for as long as possible, and in my head, that room is empty, and it's all directed to him. And then my eyes open, and there's a room filled with people cheering and smiling with their hands raised, because they're resonating with the love that I have for God, resonating with the worship and praise that they want to give to God, whether it be sadness and hurt that they're going through, grief, loss, joy, and just exhilaration, all of these emotions that is very capable through worship. I feel that, and being able to play and guide the rest of the church through that is just an added bonus that I always enjoy. Um, God's always used music as a whole as a very strong center point in my life. For one of the lows in my life, I didn't technically graduate middle school during this low in my life. My last report card for the entire 8th grade year read 5 fails and 1 A. That 1 A was in music. Because, and it's not just because music's an easy class, but it's the only class that during that hardship that I was going through, it's the only class where I felt like I can leave my burdens behind. It was the only time where I felt like I was allowed to escape everything that I was going through and just focus on something that genuinely made me happy. And God has used that numerous times, especially when it comes to my playing worship, to just allow me to resonate on whatever season I may be going through. He definitely will always have a few songs that'll come up on my radio or that'll come up on my playlist as I'm working or driving to work or just trying to relax and listen to music. Something will come on and it'll allow me to sit there and be like, oh, he's telling me something. He's either telling me that I'm always loved. He's telling me that he's going to get me through this next season, whatever it may be, even if I don't feel like it's going to be an easy road. He knows that, but he's going to get me through it regardless. Or even if I'm just singing praise, if I'm just able to scream at the top of my lungs about how amazing he is and all the amazing things he's done in my life. He does that all through worship, and he's always used music as a very strong focal point in my life.
It's amazing. Thanks for sharing. That was awesome to see how music has played a role in your life. It's been the language of connection with God as well for you, and all over Scripture as well. So you are obviously helping with the intergenerational value that we have here at the church, but you also, the worship, connecting with God is also a value for us and part of our vision with communion with God. But then also the commission aspect, being outwardly focused, or compassion ministry. And you also, have been helping with the food pantry. And so that's pretty cool. It's not just like an inward worship, me and God and us, but also, helping those in need outside of the four walls of the church. And so how has that been experienced? How's that been for you to be able to serve in the food pantry and help others in need?
The food pantry has been just an amazing ministry for me. It's one of the first ministries that I signed up for when I first started attending the Vineyard. I remember having sat here for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and I remember Kevin Grable saying that they needed help, more volunteers for the pantry, because there was plenty of people seeking food, but we needed more helpers to be able to give that out. And I remember after hearing that, I was like, oh, that's something I want to do. I'm signing up for that immediately, because I want to be able to give people something physically tangible that they can see, that is a reflection of not just our love and our support for the community, but God's love and support for the community. And hearing about the pantry, I was like, that's such an amazing, tangible way to work outwardly to our community. I was like, yes. I was like, I have to be a part of that. And so I I signed up, and before I found myself being a part of worship and leading a connect group, uh, and having fully packed Sundays, I was there every week, wanting to serve and wanting to be there and just really having fun, being able to work with so many different people of the church early in the morning. Especially this is back when it seemed like we were starting the food pantry earlier and earlier and earlier. There'd be Sundays where the volunteers were showing up at like 6:30 in the morning, to start giving out food by 7:30. And I'm like, man, I was like, didn't just last week we started at like 8? I was like, but it's fine. I was like, clearly the people receiving food are committed. I was like, so obviously we have to respond in kind. But I mean, it was nice finally gaining structure later. But I was still very invested during that time. It was still like, all right, cool. If they want to do earlier, then we'll respond by doing earlier. And I was like, all right, we got it, and I could do that. And it's just been such an amazing experience being able to see so many faces lined up around the church, and as they receive their groceries, them being just genuinely thankful and grateful to have someone see them, recognize that they need help, and be able to actually support them in some sort of way, even if it may seem small to some people. For them, it could be something even life-saving, because it's something that they may or may not have been going without for a while. So seeing that gratitude and just being able to help out with that's its own reward.
Yeah.
So even when it was during those crazy, hectic early mornings, that was its own reward. Being able to genuinely help people and see them just receive that with so much love and so much grace. It's always been amazing to be a part of.
Well, I'm just so grateful for your life, Dasan, and I'm so grateful for Sean, wherever you are, Sean.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Seriously.
inviting Dasan to the Valley Vineyard, and the community's been a place for you to heal in some areas, but also a place for you to reflect what God's doing in your life. And so just thankful for you, and your grin, your smile when you're worshiping there is so contagious. And just thank you for saying yes to Jesus and whatever you feel he's calling you into, and you just jumping in. It's not about it's not just about being capable, it's about being available, right? And God is the one who helps us along the way, but it takes risk, it takes faith, it takes, I don't know if I can do this, and God says, well, together we can. So
Yeah.
so thank you for being a part of just a lot of what we're doing here. So thanks for joining me today as well.
Of course.
It's been great getting to know some parts of your story that I didn't know. So that's awesome. So have a blessed day, week, and everybody who's listening as well.
Thank you.